My name is Vicky Sale. I'm the Operations Manager at my CWA, and I'm joined by DI Claire Jessen from Crewe Police. Today we're going to talk about DVPNs and DVPOs. So to start off with, Claire, can you tell us what the difference is between a DVPN and DVPO?
So a DVPN is a domestic violence protection notice, and a DVPO is a domestic violence protection order. So what they mean is when the police are dealing with perpetrators, if we feel there has been violence used or threatened towards a victim, and there is insufficient evidence to charge a perpetrator to go to court, these are an additional power that we have to be able to protect people and to keep people safe. So what it basically means is that an order can be put in place against the perpetrator to prevent them from doing certain things. Most commonly, them things will be to prevent them returning to a home that may be shared with a victim. So a DVPN is the initial notice that the police can serve, and it means that them orders and them conditions stay in place for up to 48 hours. What happens is the police then have to go to court and apply for a DVPO, so a formal order, and then that order will have either the same conditions or slightly modified, whichever the court feels is best, and that order will then last for up to 28 days.
So if I were to report a violent incident, are the police more likely to issue a DVPN rather than arrest the perpetrator?
So when police attend incidents of domestic violence, our primary priority is the safety of the victim. And what that tends to mean in the majority of the cases is if there's grounds for an arrest, we would always arrest. And the reason we would do that is because it gives an immediate response to some safeguarding, and we would obviously want to be able to have the time to speak to victims and witnesses and all parties to make sure that the best outcome is achieved. So yes, we do have the power to issue a DVPN and apply for a DVPO without an arrest, but it's rarely used because it's not the best thing for the victim. If the police arrest, that means that that is an immediate decision made at that time for safeguarding to take place there, and then there is no delay. We would be very uncomfortable with going away from an address to then get a notice authorised to then come back. So that's why 99.9% of the time it happens, it's because someone has been arrested.
Okay. And how do the police make the decisions to whether to issue a DVPN or not?
So it's made on a case-by-case basis, and as with anything in the police, we work on evidence and information that's available. So it's authorised by a superintendent, who is a high-ranking officer within the police, and they basically have to look at the legislation and check that the criteria is met, so that violence has been used or has been threatened, and it's against relevant parties, so people that have been in a relationship, people live in the same households, and they have to make sure that any decisions that are made are justified and necessary and fair for all parties. So they'll consider all of those things, but ultimately the main priority for us at all times is the safeguarding of the victim. So that would be the main thing we would consider. What we'd also do is we would ask a victim what their wishes were in relation to a DVPN. So we have to take into account all parties' thoughts and feelings on it, including sometimes, experts like people at my CWA or people from the IDFA service. So we take all views into account.
Thank you. And as a victim of domestic abuse, how does a DVPN help me?
The really easy way to explain them is that it will give you some breathing space. It will give you some breathing space to be able to make the right decision for you. If it's authorised by the court and we get up to 28 days, it gives 28 days for a victim to be able to clear the head and get a right mindset. It gives them the opportunity to be able to get the right support from professionals, so police and partner agencies to come in and help with all manner of things. So I think the key thing to remember is when a domestic incident occurs, there's an awful lot of worries and thoughts going through victims' heads, and you can't possibly be expected to make what are effectively life-changing decisions there and then. So the beauty, I guess, of the DVPN and DVPO is it gives that breathing space of up to 28 days where we can get the right support, advice and guidance for you to be able to help make the right decision for you and your family.
Thank you so much, Claire.